Without the practice of the process of disidentification from the ego, we cannot truly or completely heal our deepest traumas or fears. We cannot have a complete reading of our ego. So we cannot advance much on a spiritual level either. So it is important, according to my experience, to know how to place correctly in our psyche the ego to be able to use it as a healthy, natural tool. So follow me in this video. What is the final goal of this process? I use the word goal only to facilitate the understanding to our mind, because in truth, as we will see in the step 3 video in this process, no goal should exist to achieve our being, our beingness. Having said this, the final goal should be the alignment or connection with the higher self. And from that space, to speak through the ego as a tool and not as an ego in which we are identified. That's a very important point, in my opinion. But we cannot avoid or destroy our ego because it is the means that allows us to live in this physical reality and separation. You are not in that body. You're not only that name or the work you have, the job. And I also, for example, I am in my body, yeah, but it's not me. I have a name and I have a work, but that's in this game we're all playing these roles. Our whole humanity is in this life within an apparent separation in order to learn how to return to unity through many incarnations. And without the ego, it would not be possible. That's how important it is. And one of the problems with the ego is that the energy which it feeds and strengthens is hatred. And this creates a strong bond with the opposing forces. The more time we are disidentified from the ego during the day, that is, the less intense or rigid is our identification in the ego, the greater our ability to feel, perceive, think, and express ourselves through our true self. However, we will always have the need of the ego to communicate in this earthly reality that is based on duality, separation. And the ego is the communication tool for this dual reality, that is the physical one. Why do I say that? Because it is natural that when we speak, we must necessarily identify partially in the one who speaks, we ourselves, right? Like me in this moment. So we must enter, let's say, more into duality when we talk. And we lose part of the alignment or connection with the true self. And it is precisely the practice of the disidentification from the ego that allows us to move better, more fluently from the ego, let's say, to the true self, without getting too much lost in the ego, or not at all, for those who have completely awakened. This is the ability to move from point A, which is the identification in the ego, and to point B, which is the identification in the true self. I briefly mentioned also in my presentation video in the nataliash.com site. Last consideration, but not for this less important. For a long time, humanity is trying to create a new world on earth, one full of harmony, joy, justice, love, and wisdom. But we continue to fight endlessly with the opposite forces. How true is it right now in this era? And it never seems to get to the root of the problem. But when we work on this identification of the ego, we dissolve or reduce the amount of hatred and conflict within us, even if we're not initially aware of it. And then this affects the reduction of hatred and conflict in the collective consciousness. That is the source on which the contrary forces feed itself on. So that's huge right there, in my opinion. So the responsibility and power that each of us has is truly great, much more than it seems, or that they want us to believe. So this introductory video will be followed by other 3 steps, and I hope they are useful to you in any point you are now on your spiritual journey. See you soon.